as you add people, a lot of times it becomes less efficient. So you do want to run a pretty lean to even 15, 16 people is a pretty lean team for the operation that we've got. My concern as you add people, some people maybe get lost in the system or reduce efficiency. So that's something that you've got to be aware of.
This is an exciting episode for me to record as we close off the calendar year. I read this guest's book, reached out to him on LinkedIn, emailed him, let him know how I felt, and that led to him coming on the show quite some time ago, but I'm excited to bring him back. Allan, great to see you.
Hey, Vincent, pleasure to be back.
Great to see you, and thanks for coming on, everyone. Welcome back to That Entrepreneur Show, the #1 podcast for small business owners, entrepreneurs, and high achievers. His book, The One-Page Marketing Plan, changed the way I looked at things and helped me gain some momentum. I had to have him bring that expertise to the show, so we'll get some of that as well as the latest and greatest in his world. I know he's got a lot to catch us up on in a year or two since he came on. Before we get going, I'd like to share that this episode is brought to you by Coming Alive Podcast Production. To get started on your podcast today, head to comingalivepodcastproduction.com. But Allan, what's the latest in your world? We'll fill in the blanks once we catch up a bit, but you haven't been on this show. I mean, we're on episode, when this airs, maybe 405, 410. You
Yeah.
came on, I want to say 100 or 150 something.
Oh,
So
wow. Has it been that long?
I want to hear, what are you up to now? Catch our audience up with the latest is.
Look, probably the biggest thing in my world was launch my new book, Lean Marketing. We also completely rebranded the business around that, the whole lean marketing concept as well. So that's been a lot of work and we really enjoyed that. So yeah, book, been touring a little bit and speaking at conferences. So lots going on.
Tell me about the new book.
Yeah, so the new book is called Lean Marketing. It's essentially it's an independent book, but it's essentially book two of the one-page marketing plan. So the one-page marketing plan talks about strategy, how to get really clear, how to put a plan together. And book two, Lean Marketing, is really about, all right, great, you've got your plan. Now this is how we build a marketing infrastructure that's going to be highly effective and do that with less marketing. So we want bigger results with less marketing, because one of the reasons that I wrote this book is because every day we see people pushing more, more, more. You need to be on more platforms, on more channels. You need to post more often. You need to spend more money. And when I looked at it, the best marketers in the world, they're highly focused and they've got a very lean marketing infrastructure. They do a few things, but they do them very well rather than doing 1,000 things and doing them kind of in a haphazard way.
I look forward to ordering this book on Amazon. I just wrote it down in my notes next to me. Again, his first book made a big impact on me. I wish you were on this side of the world. We can meet in person. But for now, let's talk about the business that you have built. You mentioned the rebrand. Start with what it was and now what you're turning into.
So it used to be called SuccessWise. Now we rebranded to Lean Marketing. I started SuccessWise even before I really started marketing consulting, and I got more and more clarity around the value proposition that we had, and I wanted people to really understand that we're all about marketing. SuccessWise, I think it's a nice name or whatever, but I really probably wasn't following my own principle of being hyper specific about what's on the label is in the can. So we rebranded it around lean marketing. I also believe that there's an opportunity to use lean principles in the marketing space, and I really wanted to put a stamp and own that. So lean principles have been used very, very successfully in manufacturing and services businesses, in those kind of industries for decades and decades. And I think some of these lean principles are a game changer for small businesses as applied to marketing. So lean is really all about removing waste, increasing efficiency, doing more with less. And I think in our space right now, it's very timely because, like I said, everybody's telling us to do more, to spend more, to be everywhere. And it's just exhausting and it's just expensive and it's just too hard for most small business owners.
What is one common mistake you see where companies could be leaner, but they're just making a common mistake?
Yeah, so a very common mistake is the idea that, hey, marketing is the price we have to pay to make revenue, to make sales, to get people to be aware of us. And so we're going to be annoying, we're going to be spammy, we're going to interrupt a lot of people. And, we know it sucks, but it's the price we have to pay to get our message out there and to get our name out there and to get revenue in the door. And the whole principle of lean marketing is that no, your marketing can actually create a lot of value in the marketplace for people who will become buyers and people who may never even buy from you. So it creates that positive externality. So economists, whenever you do something that creates an unintended effect, economists call that an externality. So, for example, if I have a factory and there's pollution coming out of my factory, that's a consequence of me manufacturing, and that's a negative externality. So I'm harming the environment. But you can also have positive externalities. For example, my neighbor plants a beautiful garden that I can oversee from my balcony. And so they spend hours and hours maintaining the garden and weeding it and all that sort of thing. And I sit there on my balcony and I enjoy the beautiful garden, which I didn't have to pay for or do anything. So that's a positive externality. And so from a marketing perspective, we can create positive externalities where our marketing actually creates a lot of value in the marketplace. We're not interrupting people. We're not annoying people. We're not spamming them. We're not doing all of these tactics that we've all become really annoyed with and that we've put up all these walls to avoid. We can create the kind of marketing that people actually look forward to. They're entertained, they're inspired, they catered by what we do. And then a small percentage of those people may buy from us. So that's really the idea of lean marketing, is that we can create a lot of positive goodwill in the marketplace with our marketing and create revenue and sell our stuff and create a brand that people really love. And we don't have to create all of this waste, because otherwise, if with the wasteful marketing, it's kind of like what people call a numbers game. We have to do 1,000 dials, then we get 10 appointments. Then out of those 10 appointments, one person may go to the next step or whatever. And so we're burning a lot of goodwill. We're creating a lot of negative externalities. We're creating a lot of pollution, a lot of interruption, all of that sort of stuff.
Thank you for sharing all that. Everyone, that should be motivation to go ahead and pick up that book. It is everywhere now. But staying on the marketing thing, do you see yourself continuing this book series? Is there a planned next book in this sequential process?
I don't have a planned next book. I don't release books on a schedule. So I know a lot of authors like release a book each year or whatever, and I highly admire people who do that. I release a book only when I have to, right? When I've essentially got no choice. And, the time for lean marketing had come because I just see so much noise, so much pollution, so much nonsense in the marketing space. And that's why I released that book. I mean, this book took me 2 years of my life to get done. And so I don't have immediate plans for another book. I've got some ideas that are still half baked, but I'm probably years away from any other book release. So no, I don't have a series in mind. I've got a few other projects that I'm working on at the moment, but I really only do books when I absolutely have to.
Are we able to hear a little bit about what's going on with these projects behind the scene, or are they still too premature?
Yeah, look, I'm happy to share. So I do have in mind to do a children's book, maybe. So because I
Love it.
think there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there who have children or people who are entrepreneurial, and they want their kids to learn business concepts, but in a fun way that children will receive. So I think business books for children could be a category. So it's kind of a little bit of something experimental. I'm also working on my podcast, so we're releasing episodes every week. It's called Lean Marketing Podcast. Got some amazing guests and creating a lot of unique kind of training in there. So they're probably a couple of my biggest projects at the moment.
Hey, that's great. Well, congratulations on the continued success, really piecing the brand together and more. Is your company fully remote now? Because I know when we talked, I don't know if it was COVID or right after COVID. Are you still in the office at all?
We've never had an office. We've always been fully remote, long
Really?
before
Okay.
COVID. So I've got people all over the world, mainly around the United States, but I've got people in Canada, in South Africa, in Philippines, in Germany. So we're a remote team all over the world and always have been.
It's great to see that your growth is there with your staff as well. Let's go back. Walk us through that first hire.
Yeah, first hire was I hired someone who would help me with copywriting, but also I hired someone who I felt had leadership potential because I always feel like I don't want to hire just for the immediate thing. I want to hire for the growth of the business. And so I wanted someone who would potentially be someone who hired other people, who managed other people. And so I always talk about hiring for attitude rather than skills, because skills can be taught, attitude really can't be. And in fact, first hire, she ended up progressing over years and years through the business, and she eventually became the CEO of the business. She's now on sabbatical. She's pursuing some other things, but she was with me for probably 5 years and moved up and ran my whole business. So that was my first hire.
Amazing. What were the challenges? You got that first hire. What were the challenges once you got to 5 employees, maybe 10? What were some things that you started to experience?
Yeah, look, team is now at 15, maybe 16 people. I think we just hired somebody yesterday. And the challenge, clear, I'm not running the day to day. I've got a CEO who runs the day, and she does an incredible job. But I think the challenge starts to be, as you add people, you don't necessarily add efficiency. So when you go from 1 to 2 people, you almost double productivity, maybe not double. When you add the third person, you get like there's they become overhead, right? There's communication overhead. Now you've got 3 people you've got to communicate with. Then when you've got 5, when you've got 10, then you've got to separate into teams, and then maybe one team didn't communicate something to another team or whatever, or there's Slack messages all over the place and all of that. So as you add people, a lot of times it becomes less efficient. So you do want to run a pretty lean to even 15, 16 people is a pretty lean team for the operation that we've got. But yeah, my as you add people, some people maybe get lost in the system or reduce efficiency. So that's something that you've got to be aware of.
Thank you for sharing that, everyone. It's exciting to see. I want you to please go back after the show, look at the description, check out his first show so you could appreciate his growth like I see on LinkedIn. Right now, who would you say your ideal client is, Allan?
Yeah. So my ideal client is someone doing $1 million to $20 million in revenue. They're running a business that either they founded or they had handed to them. A lot of times they don't have a dedicated marketing role, or if they do, it's someone maybe part-time, or maybe it's something that they're doing themselves part-time. A lot of times they've built that business just on the back of their own blood, sweat, and tears, but they don't have a systematic approach to marketing, meaning there's not someone who runs marketing, there's not someone that they don't have daily, weekly, monthly process to really run marketing in a systemized way. So that's really what myself and my team help them put together. So we're not a marketing agency. We're kind of the opposite of a marketing agency. So marketing agency just does the stuff for you. We will help you build your own marketing capability and your own marketing team so that you own that intellectual property, because I believe marketing, or figuring out how to get your ideal customer to know you, like you, and trust you, is the most valuable intellectual property you could possibly have in a business. So that's why we help you build that, so that you can be on your own 2 feet, independent, able to generate leads on demand, and able to own that process.
I love that, because in entrepreneurship, especially if you're not willing to learn the process, you're probably in the wrong game. You're going to have to learn and reinvent the wheel as things continue to change. I don't see the value in having someone just do all of that for you, because what are you taking away from it? Even my podcast clients, in onboarding, we walk through every step of my system, every step of my process, so they at least have an understanding of what's going on behind the scenes. Big communication guy in business, sometimes over communicate, but I know that's not the worst thing. Before we find out all of his contact information, where to find him online, do you have any speaking events online or anything online where our community can get in touch with you coming up?
Yeah, we always have something going on. The best way to keep abreast of it is go to leanmarketing.com, and on the homepage there, you can enter your email address. You'll get the one-page marketing plan canvas sent to you for free. And then we email our audience pretty regularly, let them know what's going on. There's a lot of good tips and things that we email on a weekly basis. So that's probably the best way to keep in touch. My new book, Lean Marketing, is available wherever books are sold, Amazon and all of that. And a lot of people love it on audio as well. Had a really awesome narrator, narrated on Audible. So if you prefer listening rather than reading, that's a great place to get it.
Thank you for sharing that, everyone. There was a lot of value put into today's show. Be sure to go check everything out. And the show, That Entrepreneur Show, is available on all podcast platforms. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave us a rating and 5 stars so others can join our conversations. I am at Vincent A. Lancy on all social. My website is vincentalancy.com. And Coming Alive Podcast Production is here to help. Head to Coming Alive Podcast Production to brainstorm your next show. With that, we are signing off today on a welcome back show with our friend Allan Dib. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Vincent. It was a pleasure to be back on.